I'll do what's known in the trade as a bit of filler, and then if that leads to more people, then amazing. If not, then what a dream team we've got here with, of course, you, Dylan, and CB, and Kyle, and Freddie, and Nick, and Eloise, and Kirsty. I couldn't wish or dream for a better group than the one we've got here. So my name is Dan, and I am a performer and activist specializing in queer heritage. And one of the things that I find really interesting is Polari. I don't know whether anyone's heard of Polari before.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Who said yes? That was you, CB.
CB. Yeah.
And Dylan, you've heard of it. Everybody else is on mute. You're very welcome to unmute yourselves if you would like. Otherwise, say anything you want to in the chat box. Great. Hello, Freddie. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. So for those of you who haven't heard of Polari, Polari was this sort of hidden gay language spoken by gay men, predominantly gay men, in the 1950s and 1960s, as sort of a secret code that they spoke, so that they were hidden in plain sight. So it's very clever. I mean, it existed out of necessity, you know, because of the huge levels of oppression that gay men faced. But just because it existed out of necessity doesn't mean that it wasn't also very fun and playful and mischievous and sexual language as well. So that's what we'll be talking about today. The workshop is going to be about 40 minutes. We'll be done by 8:40 because then I have to perform in a Zoom play, lol. And just to let you know that this Zoom session is being recorded by the LGBTQ Community Centre. So they can hold it for posterity, and when that community centre eventually opens, this can be shown at their launch party. Is that right, Dylan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This will be the prime spot. Yeah, just let people know, it's really just using it like, it'll be on our website and that kind of thing. We're probably not going to post it on social media. Just FYI, as long as people don't mind it being recorded.
Great. So then to kick off then, just because I'm not quite sure what people's knowledge levels are on Polari. If it's totally nothing, then that's totally fine. If you've got quite a bit of Polari, then that's great. I don't know if anyone wants to start by saying any Polari words that they might know.
Vada.
In the chat box. CB?
Vada.
Vada, yes. So Vada meaning to see or to look. So bona te vada your dolly orik, meaning how lovely to see your beautiful face. So Vada, yes. Does anybody know any other Polari terms? Lockdown is naff. Very good, Nick. Naff is a Polari term. Naff, does anyone know, Nick, do you know what naff originally stands for? Because it's an acronym.
I thought that this is debated. And
yes.
The acronyms are sort of post-rationalisation.
Yes.
Some of them are rude, aren't they? I can't remember what they are.
That's a very good point, Nick. NAF allegedly stands for not available for fucking. So if you saw somebody who was attractive but heterosexual, they might be NAF because they are not available for fucking. Or if you saw somebody who was, in your opinion, unattractive, they might also be not available for fucking. NAF. So it means both heterosexual and unattractive, which often can be the same thing, as we know. And it has, Nick is absolutely right, it's also a backronym rather than an acronym, which means when you give something acronym status after the event. But it's interesting that NAF is a word which is still spoken, still spoken today, isn't it? And people don't really realize that they are speaking Polari. There are other words which are spoken today in mainstream discourse by people who do not realize that they are speaking in Polari. For instance, bevy, to have a drink, or to zhuzh up, to zhuzh up your hair, to zhuzh up your room. Bonus points if anyone can spell the word zhuzh. If you think you know how to spell the word zhuzh, put it in the chat. That's something for you to think about throughout the duration of the workshop. To scarper, meaning to run away. Also mince as well, so to walk in an effeminate manner. On acronyms or backronyms, even the word camp is allegedly a Polari acronym from Tudor times, when the word known was spelt with a C. It would have been known as male prostitute, but that again is up for debate. But I've kind of gone ahead of myself there, because Polari, as I said, existed so that gay people could speak to each other and speak safely without risk of being overheard by police or homophobes or whoever it might be that were there to oppress them or risk them harm. And there were lots of different types of Polari. There was a very polite Polari, there was very rude Polari, there was middle class Polari, there was working class Polari, there was Northern England Polari and Southern England Polari. So if you were a West End Wendy and somebody who sort of from the theatre scene, your Polari would have been quite different to the Polari of a Liverpool docker. A fine example of that is the word dish. There are two definitions of the word dish depending on your Polari. Can anyone give me those two definitions, or one of those definitions? Maybe out loud or in the chat.
Dish is like attractive, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
so dish can be an attractive man if you speak polite, middle class Polari. And dish can also mean your anus. So it's quite important not to conflate those two things. Anus and attractive man, or perhaps you might want to conflate those two things. So there's a good example of a very, very popular radio show in this country, which was on in the 1960s, called Round the Horn, which starred Kenneth Williams. I'm sure many of you know Kenneth Williams. Oh yes, oh, is Kenneth Williams. And in one of these episodes of this program, Round the Horn, Kenneth Williams is playing a house cleaner, and his colleague, another successful gay actor at the time called Hugh Paddock, says to Kenneth Williams, you can't go in there, the dishes are dirty. And Kenneth Williams says, oh, speak for yourself. And he's talking about his arsehole. He's talking about his arsehole in 1964 on BBC Radio on a Sunday afternoon. And this is evidence of how hidden in plain sight Polari was, how it was a language which gay men could speak because they could get away with it, because nobody else knew what they were talking about. But where did it come from? Well, it's a patchwork language which was collected and amassed through other minority groups that existed in predominantly London, although it was spoken in other places, especially places with ports and docks and sailors, so places like Liverpool and also Southampton. It was predominantly a London language. And because it was a London language, it was influenced by all of those migrant groups who made London their home. So there's a lot of Yiddish, there's a lot of Italian, there's some French, there's a lot of Cockney rhyming slang, there's a lot of back slang, so pronouncing words how they are written backwards. There's a lot of deliberately misgendering terms and using she and her and things like that. And so all of that was thrown together to create Polari. It was at its height in the 1960s, as I said, through programs like Round the Horn and through people like Kenneth Williams, who was fluent in it. And then it sort of lost favor around 1967 and the early 1970s. Can anyone think or come up with any reasons why they think Polari suddenly became naff, suddenly became out of vogue? You can either say it out loud or put it in the chat. Well, I'll let you know. It's because what happens in 1967? Yes, brilliant. 10 points to Kyle. So in 1967, we have the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in England and Wales, and therefore, in theory, it's less necessary to be able to speak Polari, because in theory, you are no longer criminalised. I'm very keen to include the caveat in theory, because after 1967, oppression of homosexuality and gay men obviously continued, and it was also only the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in 1967. It was only decriminalised in England and Wales, and it was only decriminalised between two adults over the age of 21 who were in a building by themselves, not even another person in the house. And obviously there's other rules as well. You can't be in the armed services. Scotland and Northern Ireland, forget about it, etc. But decriminalisation was one reason. And also it was seen as very, very camp. And although I think there's a lot of power in a limp wrist, camp was seen as problematic to gay and queer liberation. It is an honour and privilege to be joined by Nettie Pollard in this chat, one of the pioneers and founding activists of the Gay Liberation Front, which this year celebrates its 50th anniversary. And so maybe Nettie, if you wanted to get yourself off mute and talk to us a little bit about why Polari was no longer common parlance, you're very welcome to do that. Are you going to do that? Hard to tell. I'll keep talking for the moment. And so it was seen as no longer fitting with this idea of out of the closets and into the streets, because it was very kind of mincing and performative. And so characters in sitcoms such as Are You Being Served, the John Inman character, was seen as problematic to further equality and liberation for gay people, and therefore it was seen as something which you shouldn't really do. But then it sort of gained popularity again in the 1990s with this kind of counterculture and student culture and Channel 4 and stuff like that. And now it's kind of spoken again. So it's got a very interesting history. What I'd like us to do is, I've set a little challenge for you, is we're all going to go off Zoom for no more than 6 minutes, and I'm going to tell you what to watch on YouTube. It's a very short film. It's only 6 minutes long, and it is two men speaking fluently in Polari. And when we return, so come back to this chat as soon as you finish watching it. When we return, there isn't a prize, but I'll be very impressed with the person who has deciphered what they are talking about the best. And so what you need to go on to now on YouTube is, if you just type in Polari, how gay men used to speak, you'll see that there's a film there by a filmmaker called Brian and Carl. Can we all do that now and return here in 6 minutes time? Off we go. Okay. Is everybody back? Everybody was able to watch that, I hope. Okay, can anyone want to hazard a guess as to what that conversation was between those two men on that park bench? Either get yourself off mute, or if you prefer to talk in the chat. It's probably easier to get off mute if you've got an idea.
I got a bit of it, I think.
Go on, Nick.
Is Pauline had a sex change?
Yes.
And then it goes a bit hazy between there and him cottaging. He was blowing somebody off. He went outside and told the police there was someone in there, got something about wiping his mouth, and then I presume he got angry because he ratted on somebody. That's about it.
That's pretty much it. Congratulations, Nick. That's. Does anyone want to add to that? Anything else that you might have caught from that conversation? No? Okay. Well, Nick, that is so impressive. Well done. Yes, then they got sent to court. That's absolutely right as well. What that film shows is the locality of Polari as well, because that's very much London Polari. If that conversation had happened in Liverpool or Southampton, some of it wouldn't be understood by other Polari speakers in those towns and cities. So, for instance, if you remember, he said, got Battersea twice last week. Obviously, Battersea is in South London, and in Battersea in the 1950s was a very popular sexual health clinic. So if somebody has an STI, they're going to have to be Battersea. They're going to have to go to Battersea to get themselves seen to. The thing to say is, if you didn't really understand everything that was going on in that conversation, don't worry about it too much, because that is a very extreme example of people speaking Polari very fluently. For most Polari speakers, they would have just dropped in some Polari words in and amongst speaking English predominantly. What we're going to do now, though, is a little game. I'm going to attempt to share screen. I hope you can still hear me, and I hope you can see this. And what we've got here is different categories of Polari words. And I'm going to pick somebody to choose some of these categories. So CB, I'm going to unmute you, and or ask you to unmute.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah,
and
hi.
Can you choose 3 categories here? So we've got body part, backslang or acronym, foreign language based, wild card, funny-ish, sexual or person.
Can I go for wild card?
Wild card, yep. 2 more.
2 more. Body part
Body parts, yep.
and funny-ish.
Funny-ish, okay. So I'm going to reveal to you in the chat what these words are that you have got, and you have got to make up a sentence using these words. Okay. So your 3 words are cafes, ogles, and Colin. So I'm now going to privately tell you what those 3 words mean, and you've got a couple of minutes to come up with a sentence with those words in them.
Okay.
Okay, so CB's got their 3 words. I'm gonna now share screen again, and this time, Freddie, if you can come off mute, and I'm gonna give you 3.
My mic's a bit bad, so I'm not sure how good the sound would be, but I think it.
I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I get a foreign language based one?
Yes.
A wild card as well.
A wild card. Yes.
What was right above foreign language?
Say again.
And a person one.
And a person. Okay. So just going to stop that share, and I'm going to send this to you privately in the chat. The definitions of your 3 words to make a sentence. Your 3 words, capello, that comes from the foreign language option. Josie Crystal comes from the person option. And handbag. So again, Freddie, just like CB, you've got a couple of minutes to come up with a sentence with those 3 words in. Great. And does anyone else want to go? Let's go for Nick. You've been so impressive. Let's give you 3 to do. So again, these are the categories. You're on mute at the moment. You just unmute yourself, or I can do it. There we go.
Yeah. let's go sexual because somebody's got to go there.
Sexual. Great.
Person.
Person. Yep.
And let's have a wild card.
And a wild card. The wild card. Great. Okay. Oh, you've got a great one, Nick. So your 3 words, and I'll tell you these in the private chat. You've got Kazi. You've got basket. And you've got charpering Omi. So charpering Omi is the person. Basket is the sexual. And Kazi is the wild card. And you've got a couple of minutes to come up with yours. And we'll do one more. Sorry that we can't get everybody in. Nettie, do you want to go? Are you good to have a go, Nettie?
I don't think I could do it.
Okay, well, anyone else want any volunteers? Dylan? Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll share screen again. So, Dylan, what categories would you like?
Could I get funny language or foreign language?
Foreign language, yep.
Backslang.
Backslang, yeah.
And wildcard.
And a wild card. Great. Okay. So your 3 words are mangerie, which is foreign language, ria, which is backslang, and your wild card is bijou. So I'm going to tell you in private chat now what those words mean, in case you hadn't worked them out. And while you're doing that, Dylan, we can return now hopefully to CB, who's come up with a sentence.
Okay, yes. His ugly were as beautiful as the Colin in his cafes.
Say that again for us.
His ugly
Yeah.
were as beautiful as the Colin in his cafes.
So his oglies or his ogles were as beautiful as the Colin in his cafes. Can anyone try and decipher that? His ogles were as beautiful as the Colin in his cafes. Yes, Nick's on the right lines. Okay, CB, do you want to reveal it?
His eyes were as beautiful as the erection in his trousers.
Beautiful. So ogles is eyes. That's why ogle fakes are glasses, fake eyes. Cafes are trousers. And the funny one, Colin, means erection.
Yes. Great. My name's Colin, so I'm going to use that more.
Well, there you go. Who was next? Then it was Freddie, wasn't it? Freddie, what's your sentence?
I wouldn't say it's as funny, but Josie Crystal, his capello looks expensive. He's definitely got handbag.
Okay, so Josie Crystal, his capello looked expensive. He's definitely got handbag. Josie Crystal, his capello looked expensive. He's definitely got handbag. Any ideas? So Josie Crystal, what does Josie Crystal mean, Freddie?
So it means basically Jesus Christ, his hat looks expensive. He's definitely got one.
Absolutely, brilliant. So Josie Crystal is Jesus Christ. God, by the way, is Gloria. So Jesus Christ, his hat looks expensive. His capello His hat looks expensive. He must have plenty of handbag. Handbag is money. By the way, if you're claiming universal income at the moment, that means you're claiming the national handbag. You're dipping into the national handbag, the national money. Great. Cheers, Freddie. We'll move on then. Then it was Nick, who had 3 words that fit perfectly already. Can you give us your sentence?
The Charpering Omi had a boner basket, so I followed him into the Kazi.
Brilliant. The Charpering Omi had a boner basket, so I followed him into the Kazi. Could anyone decipher that? So Charpering Omi is an occupation. It's an occupation that you might avoid as a gay man in the 1950s and 1960s. It's a police officer. Brilliant, CB's there. Great, that's right. So he had a nice, what did you say, Nick? He had a boner basket. So boner is nice, basket is a man's bulge. So perhaps he had a collar, which explains why he had a nice basket. And so you followed him into the Kazi. Kazi is a public toilet. Great, amazing. And then Dylan, what was your sentence?
Well, mine's a lot more PC than that one, but I said I had a bijou bite to mangerie while doing my RIA.
Oh, very sweet. So a bijou bite to mangerie while doing your RIA. I suppose it's important how to pronounce the word RIA, otherwise it sounds like rear. Bijou means
Little.
Yeah, little or small. Mangerie is to eat, and RIA is backwards for hair. Okay, everybody, that was just a whistle-stop tour through Polari. There's plenty more that I can say on the topic, and I'm sorry that I cut out there. I'm on a really, really shit laptop, but there we go. It's been great talking to you. I'm sorry that it's been so quick. If you are interested in Polari or want to know more about this kind of stuff, because I run queer tours and workshops on lots of various topics and stuff such as this, you can get in touch with me. That's my name. Oops, I sent that just to you, Dylan. You can get in touch with me via lots of different ways, and that's the way to get in touch with me for more information on Polari, as well as various other topics. Thank you so much for coming. It was really cute and sweet, and if you want to know more, just give me a shout. But otherwise, have a good evening.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
It was great, Dan.
Oh, great. Cheers, Nettie. Thanks for coming.